My name is David Stamford. I'm an Assistant Provincial Grand Master in Warwickshire, and I'm also the Membership Officer for Warwickshire as well. So part of the reason for having this call this evening is that because of COVID-19, a lot of stuff we'd normally do, we haven't been able to do. Some of you actually applied to join Freemasonry, expressed an interest as far back as February. Some expressed an interest an hour ago, literally. And have very kindly joined us this evening. Others have sent apologies. They're away on holiday. They've got family issues and stuff like that. But the whole point really of this evening is to talk to those who aren't yet in Freemasonry, to explain a little bit more about Freemasonry, and what would normally happen and what we would like to think is going to happen next. So this is a totally unscripted conversation. It's to you personally. You'll have to excuse the fact there are other people in on this call, but it's a bit like you and I were talking in a coffee shop somewhere. And so I think we'll probably go on for about 20 minutes. I won't take questions at the end because that's a bit unfair on those who can't get the question, but you all have my email address. So if anybody would like to email me afterwards with a question, absolutely fine. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If I don't know the answer, I think I probably know somebody who will have the answer. So you'll certainly get a reply. But thank you for joining this evening, and thank you for the interest you've expressed in Freemasonry. Well, what is Freemasonry? Well, it's an organization which is, to some extent, can be described as a collection of individuals. We've all joined for our own reasons. We've all joined to get something different out of Freemasonry. But basically, it's a society that's been in existence for hundreds of years. The United Grand Lodge of England was formed just over 300 years ago. And the origins go back to the stonemasons who built the cathedrals and the wonderful churches we have across Europe, starting out in the Middle East. And originally, we think, tend to go back to King Solomon's Temple. And obviously, as in the stonemasons, they honed their skills, they improved, they traveled around in what were known as lodges, looking for work, and they bonded together as a group of people. Well, obviously, we're not operative stonemasons anymore, we're Freemasons. And we've tended to use what they did in working the stone and knocking off the rough edges in what we do in Freemasonry today, which is by and large to take good people and make them better. Any of you that have applied to join Freemasonry know that on the very simple form we send out to you, it asks a number of questions, but there are two pertinent questions on that. One, do you have a criminal record? And the other one is, do you believe in a higher power? And the reason we put in the question about believing in a higher power is that for many years, Freemasonry was considered to be a secret society. And then we thought we'd be rather clever and play with words and call ourselves a society with secrets. And all this really did was it meant that people who didn't know about Freemasonry, didn't understand Freemasonry, started to fill in the dots, and we got a very unhelpful press because people form their own opinions, which they're entitled to. But unfortunately, some of them were ill-informed. And most of Freemasonry today is available, whether it be on the internet, by talking to people. And what we've been trying to do in recent years is bring Freemasonry out into the open, to break down the barriers and to start what I think David Cameron used to call a big conversation, so we can talk to people about Freemasonry and actually answer their questions head on. So there are a number of things that refer to Freemasonry and how things have changed. When we originally asked questions about secret handshakes and things like that, we used to shy away from these questions. We don't shy away from them anymore. But the reason that obviously people considered Freemasonry to be a secret society was that during the Second World War, Freemasons were persecuted. Across Europe, the Nazis tried to wipe out Freemasonry. When they invaded a country, they basically ransacked Freemasons' buildings. They looked for membership lists, and then they went out looking for Freemasons, their families, and they were sent to concentration camps. And again, they're identified in concentration camps by wearing a red triangle, which was inverted, and they were persecuted. So to some extent, it did go underground. It did become, in inverted commas, a secret society. And obviously, it took a long while to get over that and to feel free to practice out in the open again. Talking about what goes on in terms of handshakes and things like that, well, yes, as we were stonemasons all those years ago, as we learned our skills, we were entitled to a higher wage. Well, in those days, most of the stonemasons couldn't read, they couldn't write, So the only way they could demonstrate to the person who's paying their wages that they're entitled to the salary or the wages they were going to get, the money, was by giving a password and a handshake. So basically, it's quite simple. To some extent, it's relatively boring. It's nothing sort of secret about it, nothing that we can't disclose on that. And there are other myths about Freemasonry as well, which we now talk to the public about. And part of the way we're actually trying to break down the barriers about Freemasonry is that under the direction of the Provincial Grand Master, who leads Freemasonry in Warwickshire, we've actually set up a team called Let's Talk, and we go out to community events. And for a secret society, we're not very secret because we have a big gazebo, which has the Freemason square and compasses on it, Warwickshire Freemasons on it, and we stand there and we chat to people that want to come along and talk about Freemasonry. And we have wives and partners on that. We have children, grandchildren on that. We have dogs on that. And it's for anybody to come along and talk to us about whatever they want on Freemasonry. And it isn't there designed to increase membership. It's there to talk to local people about what Freemasonry is all about. And the reaction we tend to get is they really didn't understand Freemasonry. And what they thought of Freemasonry is very different, because when you can make it local to people, and when you can explain to them that the hospital that maybe their wife has been into, the neonatal unit that maybe their baby was in, has been supported by Freemasons locally. Most of the hospices across Warwickshire have been supported by Freemasonry. And their money, contrary to popular myth, does not come from any nefarious scenarios. It actually comes from our own members. It basically comes from collections we do. You don't see Freemasons on street corners shaking tins, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we don't do that in Freemasonry. And another thing that most people don't realize is that after the National Lottery, Freemasonry is the largest giver to charity in the UK. And only 5% of that money goes directly to Freemasons. The other 95% goes to non-Masonic charities. So we've a lot to be proud about, a very great deal to be proud about. Just to explain a little bit of the background of Warwickshire Freemasonry, England and Wales, which comes under the United Grand Lodge of England, is basically divided into, I think it's 49 provinces. Forgive me if I've got one or two wrong there. But basically a province is about the size of a county, and it's the same geographical shape as well. So Warwickshire encompasses Coventry, parts of Birmingham, and it goes down as far south as Shipston upon Stour and up to Athelston as well. And within that province, there is somebody who heads Freemasonry, who's known as the Provincial Grand Master. And currently that's David Macy. He's the most senior Freemason in Warwickshire. He has a deputy, and then he has 4 assistants, and I'm one of the assistants. And the deputy and the 4 assistants are given various roles to perform. We're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid for doing this. In addition, he has a communications officer, who is Ian Slessor, who's organising tonight from his car on the motorway. So thank you, Ian, for that. That's greatly appreciated. And there is also a Provincial Grand Secretary as well to assist in the administration. So basically, that's the team that rules or runs Warwickshire. And then across Warwickshire, we have over a dozen meeting rooms, which are spread right the way across. And when you apply to become a Freemason, and you've taken the first step by applying, we actually then spend a fair bit of time, once we've got your form back, trying to work out which meeting room would be best for you to attend. Whether we also ask you whether you'd like one that's closer to your work or whether you'd like one that's closer to home. We also ask you whether there are any days of the week that work particularly well for you, or any days of the week that don't work for you. Because what we try and do with Freemasonry, and what we try to move towards now, and I'm sure the people before us did as well, is do it so that we make it as easy as possible for you to attend. So we try and find out the obstacles. And part of that, which is a process we can't do at the moment because of COVID-19, is once we've identified the lodge we think that may be suitable for you, because the age profile, the background suits and fits in with you, the location works for you, the day they meet works for you, is we get you to meet a couple of members of that lodge. So you can sit and have a coffee, have a drink, and have a chat about Freemasonry. And you can ask all those silly questions which you think are daft, but are the ones you really want to ask. So you don't feel under any pressure. And what we also do is we like to meet with your family as well, because it's important you have the support of your family. And part of the process quite often is to invite you and your partner and children to a social event. Most lodges have various events throughout the year, whether it be a lunch, they do quiz nights, they do fish and chip suppers, they do all sorts of things to invite you to that, just to check that it is the right thing for you and that's what you want to do. And it is important that your family feel part of it. This is not a men's only club. We have actually Freemasonry for women, but it is something that involves your entire family, and that's an important part of it, because Freemasonry is about family. So that is a process we can't do at the moment, but we're hoping to start doing that quite soon, which will be to get out and actually talk to you and move you on to the next step. Because I'm sorry, at the moment, most of you are stuck at the first hurdle. Now you've got over that one, so we need to get you to the next one. In terms of what are we doing with Freemasonry meetings at the moment, well, we're sort of in what we call our closed season at the moment. Most lodges tend to meet once a month. It is a fallacy to say they only meet 6 times a year, because there are other things that go on. There are rehearsals that go on, there are lodges of instruction that go on. So basically it is more than 6 meetings a year. And they tend to meet October, November, December, January, February, March. And so during the summer, when the children are on holiday and stuff like that, that's it, we tend not to meet. So we're just gearing ourselves up to meet again. But because of COVID-19, obviously the meetings are going to be slightly different at the moment. It does mean that obviously all our meeting rooms have had to undergo COVID-safe risk assessments. They've had to put in protocols there to protect their members. And so as a result of that, when you join Freemasonry, we believe, and this experience here, that when you actually come into a lodge for your first meeting, when you're initiated, as we call it, when you come in, that's a really important step. It's a super evening for you. It's a really important evening for you. And we really don't want to bring you in at the moment if we can't give you the sort of evening we think you deserve. We think that diminishes the whole experience. Part of the joy of joining a lodge is actually, when you're in there, is actually seeing the people that are there, the range of people that are there, getting to know the range of people there. And at the moment, with social distancing and the protocols we put in, we have the situation where in some lodge rooms there'll only be 12 people, and that isn't a great event for you. What happens in a lodge meeting is that the first part of the lodge meeting, and again, we've tried to adjust the starting times of lodge meetings now as well. Many years ago, lodges were formed by the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, who all worked together in a market town and perhaps had Wednesday afternoons off, and so they would meet sort of early afternoon on a Wednesday. People can't do that nowadays. You can't do that with your working week now. And so we've moved the times that lodges start back to 6 o'clock. In some cases, it's 6:30. But we've also said to the lodges, they must make sure that it finishes at a sensible time, because people have work and they have commitments the next day. But the first part of the lodge meeting is a business meeting. So basically we have minutes, we hear reports, we hear about charity, we hear from the treasurer, and if there is a brother, because once you join Freemason, you are a brother, or you're known as a brother. If there is a ceremony to be performed, and our ceremonies are playlets, they've been done for centuries, and the people that do the ceremonies learn their words, and they put a lot of effort into this to do the ceremony. If there's a ceremony to do, we do that as well. And that is the first half of our meeting. That probably takes a couple of hours. After that, we then go for a meal, which we have in a separate part of the building, which is known as the festive board. And that's a formal meal. So it's normally a 3-course meal. We have wine takings, we do toasts. We do toast to the Queen. We do toast to the Grand Master, who is in charge of Masonry in England and Wales, which is the Duke of Kent. And we have a number of speeches as well. But we do try and finish our lodge meetings by about 10 o'clock time, so at least people get a chance to get home. Well, at the moment, we can't do the meal. So that's part of your evening you can't have at the moment. We've only got half the number of people there that ought to be there. And what we normally like to do is we like to have people visiting from other lodges to come and support if you're coming to Freemasonry. And we can't really do that at the moment. So that's why we're putting things on hold at the moment. But once we can start doing things, we will get back to you. We will start moving this forward for you. The whole idea of Freemasonry is to help you become a better person and make a contribution to society. It's based on 4 concepts, really. Many years ago, we used very old-fashioned language, brotherly love, relief, and truth, and suddenly realized that they really don't have any relevance today to people. So we've updated those, and we're now talking about integrity. which is really about doing the right thing. It's about being able to look ourselves in the mirror and being okay with what we see reflected back at us. It's about friendship. There's a lot of friendship in Freemasonry. You'll never go to a lodge meeting and come out of that feeling worse than you went in. It's almost unconditional love. You are greeted as a brother. And you'll also find within a lodge as well, there are people from all sorts of different backgrounds. Nobody's prevented from joining Freemasonry because of religion. We don't discuss politics. We try not to discuss sport or anything that's emotive like that. But we do, in fact, enjoy each other's company. And we didn't join Freemasonry to further our business interests. If we did, I've been palpably rubbish at it, because I've never got any business out of it. So if you're thinking about joining it to enhance your business, sorry, I'd slash that concept straight away, okay? It doesn't work like that, okay? It's about respect. It's about respect for each other. It's about respect for our fellow man. It's about respect for our community, because a lot of what we're trying to do now is support our local communities. And we give away not only charity nationally, but also on a local level. It is to the local hospice, but during the COVID-19 outbreak, Warwickshire made a contribution towards the purchase of a number of computer tablets to go into hospitals, because at that time all visiting was stopped. And it wasn't just to COVID-19 patients, it was also to terminally ill patients in various wards and things who couldn't communicate with their loved ones, who obviously couldn't come and visit them. And the idea that we sent in the tablets was that obviously from the nurses' point of view, they didn't have time to try and sort out all the various types of tablets that were coming in from families. They wanted one set of tablets that they could easily sort out, they could easily set up for people. And so Warwickshire provided, and many other provinces did as well, we're not unique in this, they provided tablets during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it is about making things local, and that brings us into charity, which again, as I say, is an important part of what we do. It's a big organisation. We have over 3,500 members in Warwickshire. For a number of years, that number was declining. It declined for all sorts of reasons. Business life changed. I know when I joined Freemasonry in the early 1990s, I ran a hotel in Coventry, the Leofric, and we had no mobile phones. So when I said I was leaving the hotel, that was it. I left, I'd finished work for the day. There was no emails. We didn't even have faxes in, I don't think, so you could still say stuff was in the post. But all they had was they had my home number. And if the hotel burnt down, if we had a robbery, or if we got raided by the police, they phoned me at home. Otherwise, it didn't bother me. Life has changed now. It's changed dramatically now. So, you know, the working life is different. So we have to sort of move on with that as well. So from that point of view, you will find that, you know, we will find you a lodge that is close to you. We will find you a lodge that is right for you. And should you move, and people do move for business reasons, we will try and find you a lodge somewhere else within Warwickshire, or if not, we'll try and find you a lodge somewhere else within any of the 49 lodges that meet within the UK. It's a wonderful organisation. We're very proud of it. We're very proud that you wish to join it. As I said, if you've got any questions for me, please drop me an email afterwards. I'd be delighted to answer them. I do apologise for the fact that we haven't been able to progress your interest any further at the moment. But part of what we've been doing during the pandemic is we were very conscious that we wanted to keep people engaged. We wanted to keep in contact with our members. And so we set up a magazine which was emailed out every week called In Touch. And we also set up these weekly Zoom meetings, which were on a number of different subjects for Freemasons. Many of you, as a result of you being here this evening, will have received from me the slightly abridged version of the In Touch magazine, which has been sent out to all Freemasons across Warwickshire throughout the pandemic. As I say, our numbers are now growing. I have a lot of apologies from people who couldn't join us tonight. I now have nearly 90 people since the start of the pandemic who've expressed an interest in joining Freemasonry. The past couple of years, we've actually increased the number of Freemasons in Warwickshire. Um, and that's been done by a combination of looking after the ones that are members, because at the end of the day, we must never forget that if you are a member of Freemasonry, you always have the right to leave Freemasonry as well. So we need to make sure it's enjoyable for you, that you are enjoying it, that you feel that it's worthwhile, and also that you feel that it really is relevant. I think what we have to do as well is make sure that Freemasonry is relevant to today's society. But by being more open, we are finding we're attracting people from all different backgrounds. And the one thing of Freemasonry you do discover is you can be in a lodge with people for 30 years and not have a clue what business they're in or what business they did. And that's part of the beauty of Freemasonry. You can, because when we have our festive board, you get put next to whoever you get put next to. And when you start to talk to them, you actually discover the person behind the Freemason. And that, believe you me, is absolutely fascinating. And when you actually have the time to stop, because to some of us, Freemasonry is a bit of a sanctuary. The minute you enter that lodge room, the outside world, the door closes on it. And for those couple of hours, you're actually in a different area and you can actually focus on people and you can be where you are 100%. You don't need to worry about the world outside. That will still go on. And you can actually sit and you can talk to people and have a great conversation and understand about people's life stories. So thank you for your time this evening. I do appreciate you giving up your time this evening. I do look forward to working with you and meeting with you in due course. And above all, I wish that you and your family keep safe. Thank you very much and have a great evening. Bye.